Listen up. We are back with another episode of the Construction Mentor Podcast. My name is Ike. I am your host. You can catch me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, X, LinkedIn. We're everywhere now. And launching, we're recording this on New Year's Eve, launching today. Go check out constructionmentor.org, but also go check out the links in my bios. What I'm launching is a new construction management course. One of the most popular questions that I get is how to get into construction, how to get into the construction industry without any experience or any degree, especially for management type positions. And those positions exist. So that's my area of expertise. I've been doing it for 20 years in several different roles, from HVAC to engineering, designing plumbing, which we're about to talk about, in fire protection. And then for the last 10 years as a general contractor. So I've taken that 20 years of experience, I've funneled it into 40 hours, and there's a free intro course on there for you to teach you all about what the opportunity is and what it can mean for your lifestyle and your career. And it's free. So at the very least, go check it out. Go check it out and see if construction management is the career for you. We have some trade content in courses following up with that: plumbing, electrical, HVAC. So be on the lookout. That's what we try to do here. We try to lift people up. We try to get people into the industry because there is no better industry that is more merit-based, and you're going to get the return on your investment. And we have a great example of that here today. So we have Alayna Joy, who is a plumber in the Arizona area. And this is my number one trade to recommend to people if they want a lucrative career, if they want to become, their own business owner. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And we're going to get into that. So with that, I introduce Alayna Joy. Alayna, how are you?
Hey there, doing good. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
So the first thing you may have noticed is that she is a female. And this is the second time that we're trying to start this episode. So I'm going to give her the same question that I already gave her once. But I had some young women that I was mentoring a long time ago they wanted to be plumbers, and they were nervous, not only about their gender, but about their race. And if you're listening to this on audio, Alayna's white, so she can speak to the female part at least. But their biggest apprehension about getting into the plumbing trade was that they were women, and they were young women, and they weren't sure how accepting people would be of hiring a woman to do what is traditionally seen as a man's job, especially in plumbing. So, Alayna, curious to hear your position and how you feel as a woman who's been in plumbing for how long?
So about 8 years. In June, it will be 9 years. I started in a trade school for 10 months, hands-on lab. I was the only girl in the class out of 13 guys. And I would say it was a little intimidating, being the only female in there, but I could say I graduated at the top of my list, like the top of my, the list of the graduates. I was in like the 90 percentile.
Good for you. So when you talk about intimidating, it was intimidating from your contemporaries, right? For the other people in the class. How is the interaction with them in trade school? Because I would imagine no matter what the trade is, for any young women out there that want to get into a trade, they're probably walking into the same scenario.
Yeah, they are 100%. I mean, it's definitely a male-dominated field. And I think it's the mindset of a female, just being surrounded by nothing but guys.
Right.
But I could say at the end of the class, Robbie Wolf at the trade school, the professor who taught the plumbing trade, he had me helping the guys learn stuff like backflow testing and how to solder a little bit better and where to bring your flame because, heat rises. And so it kind of felt good that I was acknowledged and kind of used to share around the classroom on plumbing knowledge that I was just gaining myself.
Yeah, that always feels good. That's one of the best things that you can do to somebody, whether you're managing up to somebody, managing down to somebody, or selling somebody, making them feel like they're an expert in what they do. So I'm sure that felt great. And were the boys nice to you? Did they hate that you were the one that was teaching them? Or what was that like?
Yes and no. Some people call me like the teacher's pet. But Robbie Wolf always would stick up for me and just say, no, she's paying attention. Maybe you guys should pick up a pencil too. So he would kind of stick up for me, and not let them yank on my chains a little bit. But the rest of them are really great. I mean, they kind of like just treated me like a regular human being, honestly.
So you're a plumber now. You've been doing it for 8 years, and this is 8 years after you were in trade school. So talk to me about what the decision was like to get into trade school. I imagine you and I are somewhere around the same age. Um, what was Alayna like in high school? Like, did you go to college? Was college never a thought? What was your who were you at a young age?
Wow, so the Alayna in high school. So I actually got kicked out of public school. I was kind of a rebel. Public school did not like me, so I had to end up going to a charter school. So that was fun, but I graduated on time. So that was a really big deal. And I'm actually the first graduate of my family, of the kids. So that was pretty cool. Um,
So
and
can I
then
ask
other,
you is it okay to ask you what you did to get kicked out?
yeah, I kept ditching school. Like I would show up and then just leave. So I would get to school and then just take off. And you could only in public school miss so many days until they kick you out.
So were you just like walking out the front door and then you just left, or was it like the Beatles,
Yeah.
like Bill Burr's joke about like the drunk driver and the Beatles are tearing his clothes off trying to keep him there? Were people like trying to chase you out the door to
No.
come back, or you just left?
Nope. I would get dropped off and then I would just walk all the way home, or I'd get on the bus and go to the skate park. Because I love just going to the skate park and hanging out with my friends, and all of us always just ditch school, and it was just a thing back in the day. And now that I'm older, I say don't ditch school and pay attention, but it's okay
Mm,
because I turned out just fine. Like I did try to go to college. Yes, I wanted to do business management and open up. I think it was like a food truck stand at ASU College for coffee and
mm.
bagels and that kind of stuff. And I only lasted 3 months because I got so bored.
Yeah. So there's a lot here. So now I have to ask you, how old are you?
I'm gonna be 32 in February.
Okay, yeah, so we're around the same age. I'm 34. And so my mind was like the late 90s, early 2000s skate park, you know. Um, I don't even know if kids like that exist today. Like I don't know if kids are skipping school to go to a skate park. And I feel like there was different cliques and demographics of kids that I don't even know if they exist today. Like it's just there was emo kids and skater kids and goth, and there was just like all different types of cliques in the late 90s and early 2000s, and I it's just kind of dawning on me that I don't know that that exists for kids today.
I know.
um
They'll never have what we had growing up, I swear. Because we kind of were in the generation of like technology, you know, ending and coming in a new era. So, I mean, shoot, we had to text and call after 9 just for it to be free.
so when I was at the age that I may have hung out at a skate park, I there was like you'd call collect still because you didn't have a cell phone yet, and that would be the free call to your parents to like check in
Yeah.
on a payphone. So anyway, so so that's how old we are. For you young people that are in high school, we've obviously come a long way, but I think that there's a lot of people that could probably relate to Alayna, and they didn't want to be in school. You skip school, you go and hang out with your friends, you're doing whatever you want. Maybe school doesn't necessarily appeal to you, and then you get to college and you find out that it's just not for you, right? It's just not. It's either boring because it's a classroom versus you want to be working with your hands or be outside, or it just sucks and you just don't feel like you're getting anything out of it, especially when you're paying a ton of money. So so you drop out of college, and then was it straight to trade school from there? My timeline in my brain says that there was some sort of transition period before you realized that plumbing school was the path for you.
Yeah, 100%. So, kind of get a little vulnerable right now. So after all that occurred, I moved to Oregon and I got mixed up in some hardcore drugs. And I could sit here and say I'm 10 years sober, which I'm proud of. And so I would say it's about 4 or 5 years of my life I was stuck in the drug world, and it didn't get me anywhere. So I'm thankful that I was able to up and leave Oregon when I did,
Mm.
and I moved to Florida, and that's where my mom kind of was like, "Hey, you need to get a job and go back to school and figure your life out because you're not going to live with me forever. I'm giving you a
Mhm.
year to figure it out." So I was thankful for that. And I joined the trade school because they had a brochure at the Women's Resource Center, which helps us like find a job and practice interview questions, write a resume. And my mom's like, you should just go and try it. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah. So
So
this was in Florida, not Arizona.
yeah, Florida. Yep,
Okay.
this was in Florida, the free trade school.
So I thank you for sharing that. I told you offline kind of before, I don't intend to find these stories. This is the first time I'm hearing this, by the way. So for those of you that are listening, but these stories kind of keep finding me in this platform. And if you go back in my feed, and all the titles of all the previous podcast episodes, there are tons of examples of people that have been through exactly the same thing that Alayna just described. So I want to get into Alayna's story. And if you resonate with that, or you feel like you want more of that content, please go back and look at it. With that, congratulations on 10 years being sober. That's amazing. Can I ask, like, what was it what light bulb went off, or what was like the rock bottom that you said, you know what, like, enough's enough. I gotta stop.
It was probably when I had no money and was sleeping couch to couch and not figuring it out. Really just like alone, not anyone I could kind of grasp on or reach out to. So being broke and no money, and I checked into a rehab personally, and I lasted about a week, and I told myself I really just want to get around my family. So my mom pretty much just said, you can come back and live with me in Florida, but you got to figure it out.
And was it, you just stayed on the straight and narrow from there? You were sober from then on? That's
Yeah.
rare.
Yeah.
That is extremely rare.
I would say like the grace of God for sure was over me 100% during all of this, because there was many circumstances I can think back on where I could have been arrested, I could have went to jail, I could have been killed, could have been jumped, for my drugs or whatever. There's just so many circumstances in that drug world that could have gone wrong. So I'm super thankful, super blessed that God pulled me out of that, sent me to my mom's, and she was like, figure it out. And I kind of did. I was like, well, this is my second chance. Like, what am I going to do? Just throw it away, or try to do the best I can to make something of myself.
And it must have been hard, especially transitioning, different lifestyle, new area. What would you say was the biggest motivator, or the biggest thing that kept you in line? Was it the change of scenery from Oregon to Florida? Was it God and your faith? Was it finding the opportunity in the trades? All the above?
Yeah, I would say all of the above 100%, and isolating myself away from that environment completely, like 100%, just getting out of Oregon and moving straight to Florida.
Yeah, I can say the biggest issues that I've had in my life, or my rock bottoms, I would say that I was at I've had 2 points in my life that I would refer to as a rock bottom, and one of them was about 5 years ago. And moving to Florida, change of scenery, different environment, new people around me, it just allows you to have a different focus, and kind of, there's less temptation and more dictation about, how you want to act intentionally every day. So I think that's huge. And I think, to your point about faith, and if you follow Alayna, she has some great content about her faith and her journey with that. So I encourage you to go check that out. But I was atheist up until a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
And that's been huge. That's been huge for me too. And I tell people that, not to push, faith, but to say, if you're concentrating on something outside of yourself, a greater purpose, you don't have to have faith to have that, but to have a greater purpose and to serve others, that's the best way to make a change and make it stick. So, so now in Florida, what part of Florida was it in? And it was a free women's group and trade group, or a trade school. Is that what it was? Or one placed you in the other?
So it was a women's resource center, and then they just had the trade school flyer there. And then that's when I went to the Suncoast Technical in Sarasota, Florida. And that's when it was about 5 companies of plumbers. So plumbing companies, Plumbing Today. There was Leland's Plumbing. There's a couple other plumbing companies that donated to the school, so we could go to trade school for free, so they could hire plumbers on, because they were so short of plumbers. So it was kind of cool that the community got together and asked companies to donate, so the school can be completely for free for, people like me who qualified, because you did have to qualify for free trade school. Your parents had to be a low income. You had to qualify of not having any money, kind of thing. So all of us that were in there, we all came from pretty much the same aspect of
Sure.
parents, not money, wealthy kind of thing.
So I believe the state of Florida, and as well as other states, this is a very good point. If you're in a situation where you're trying to make a change or you're looking for a better career, or specifically if you're a woman, I've had several women on the podcast that were couch to couch homeless. Another one was a victim of domestic abuse, and they were basically put in situations the same as you, just in different states, right? One was in the Northeast, one was in California. So if you're in that situation, I encourage you to go out there and look for those things. And, maybe at some point I can find a way to connect people to those resources. It's definitely a good thing. Right. And people need the help, and the industry also needs it. Like you said, there's a shortage of plumbers. I'm in Southwest Florida. I am in the area that Alayna just referred to, and plumbers are throwing numbers at jobs to get jobs, to bid jobs 3 times what they would normally cost, because they couldn't run them even if they won them. And then they win them. And it's like, oh crap, I don't have the manpower to run this job, but I need to find a way to do it because I'm going to make a ton of money on this job. So look into those resources. It's a great way to put something positive in your life and to give you the freedom to be able to put food on your own table. What was it like for you in making that decision to choose plumbing? Was it a plumbing trade school only? Was there other options? Because I know like electrical contractors, they subsidize a lot of trade school, specifically in Florida, and that can be free for a lot of people. So what was it about plumbing?
So yeah, plumbing was one, lawn care mechanic, and boat marine mechanic were the 3 that were being offered right then and there for that season, which is 10 months. So to tell you the truth, I was just kind of like joking with, my mom. I'm like, well, I was a plumber for Halloween one year. Why not? Like, let me just go try it out. And I say after the 3rd month, I really just grasped on it. I was like, wow, it's all hands on, which as a cook wanting to open up a little stand restaurant, I was like, well, I get to use my hands and I get to think and calculate and figure out how to go to A to Z. And then not only that, when I found out, like when Robbie Wolf made us watch the history movie on plumbing and like what they used to do back in the day and how sick people would get, that's when it kind of like hit me hard. And I was like, so I'm a part of the health of the nation. Like, in a sense, we are more important than doctors, because if it wasn't for us, we would all be so sick right now with our poop just laying around, because they literally got their buckets and said, "A loo below," and just tossed their poop out the window onto the ground.
So, and that's why it's proper for a man to stand on the outside of the sidewalk, because the men would, if you're up against the building, there's less of a chance for somebody to throw crap outside the window and to have it land on the woman. It has nothing to do with the traffic passing by. So you hit on something that's dead on though. And I had a post that maybe I'll bring it back when I launch this episode. I had a post that said, plumbers save more lives than doctors in America. If you look at the main difference between third world countries and first world countries is the cleanliness of water. If you look at Africa has, as a continent, has, I think it's like 2,500 kids that die every day from not having clean water and dysentery, and it causes infections, and they're dumping waste into rivers that people are drinking out of it, like all of the above. And not only that, but for a doctor to do anything, for a pharmaceutical company to make drugs, for anything to be produced, it's all plumbing systems. It's clean steam, it's clean water. Maybe it's not even the water that you use to make certain things, like manufacture products and drugs, is different from the water we drink. It actually has to be so pure that it'll suck. If you drank it, it'll actually suck the iron out of your body and you'll throw up. Water, like you want it to be a little dirty, but not too dirty where you get, dysentery and die. And anyway, to your point, plumbers save more lives than any other occupation in America, and I stand by that. So,
me too.
So good for you. So now you finished the trade school in 10 months. And what types of things did you learn how to do in trade school? Because I think a lot of apprenticeships last a little bit longer than that. So I'm curious to gauge what your level of experience was like and how that translated into immediate employment.
Definitely. So the trade school was just like, we probably spent maybe, because it was 10 months, like 2 months put together in the class reading the code book. The rest of it was in the wet lab, so hands on everything the rest of the time. But I gained a lot. Like I would say like soldering was my favorite. Like I love to solder. I own a ProPress and I use it in certain circumstances, but soldering was probably my favorite craft to gain just because it's so much fun. I mean, it takes skills to solder, but just learning like the mechanisms of volume, pressure, water columns with gas and how much gas is so important to us. And I hope we never get rid of it because I know we're going, you know, a lot of like electric cars and stuff like that, but gas is really needed when it comes to America, and I hope people realize that because it doesn't freeze.
Yeah. So not only is it about drinking water and making things that we need to stay alive, but oh, by the way, we need gas to cook and to stay warm. Maybe not in Florida, but pretty much in the rest of the country. Or
Yeah.
in Arizona, you definitely need it because it gets super cold there at night. So, can I ask what was the pay like when you got out of the trade school? And how long were you in Florida? How long did you stick around before you went to Arizona?
Yeah, so after trade school, like 2 weeks later, I got hired on from Plumbing Today. And it was like a bidding war between him and Randy. So like I just went with the highest pay because I was like, well, it looks like they really want a girl and they have a pink truck for me and they're willing to pay me $2 more than this guy. So I'll go ahead and
They had a pink truck for you. That's
they had a
interesting.
pink truck for me. Yeah, they sure did. And I have it on my profile if you guys want to, you know, scroll down and see it in the beginning of my career. So but yeah, I started at $17.50. And I did 3 years with a senior tech. So I rode with a senior tech for 3 years, rode in the truck, learned with that senior tech. And every year they gave me a raise. And then after my third year, I got the option to go commission based or to stick to billable hour. And I jumped in with the
Mhm.
wolves because I see all the other guys commission based, and I'm like, what's so hard about it? um, and I would say my first year my first 2 years by myself solo, learning how to communicate with customers on the selling side. Cause I never, I always did the plumbing side, turning wrenches, not the customer base and learning how to sell and be a contractor and go in and diagnose and see how much it's going to be to cost and fix it and the hours it's going to take and calculating all of that. So my first 2 years by myself, I really learned how to build like that customer foundation on setting the agenda, setting the price, letting them know the time frame. So I would say, yeah, the first 2 years is when I learned the sales part.
And so, just to be clear, for those of you who might not know what the word commission means versus base, um, Alayna was relying entirely on her performance, both as a salesperson and as a person to actually do the job, right? So she's getting a cut of the profit, basically, as opposed to an hourly employee who, regardless of if she screws up and she's good at her job or bad at her job, she's going to make the same amount of money, right? So there's a little more risk, but a lot more reward. And I think that the industry is going in that direction because it's really hard for people to gauge whether or not somebody deserves the value for a high paying salary, but it's so competitive that people can't hold on to people. So the incentives are going to, the better you do, the better you get paid, is going and lifting that ceiling off of people, I think, is going to be the standard moving forward. So can I ask so you did a couple raises, $17 an hour up into the 20s year by year, and was the commission base compensation the right way to go? How did that pan out for you?
Yeah, I would say so. My first year on commission, I probably closed out on like 48. So that was about year 4, and then year 5 I did in the 60s, and then year like 6 and 7 I did in the 70s, and right now currently of 2024 I did 130. So I'm over
$1,000.
yeah, so I'm into the six figure range.
Okay, so those were end of the year, $60,000, $130,000 numbers, not per hour.
Yeah, per year, basically. Like when I think about my taxes and filing my
Mm-hmm.
taxes, like end of year of what I was filing and stuff as a plumber each year, it kept growing. And like what I say is the sky's the limit, right? When you're a commissionable tech. Like if I want to take an extra call because I don't have anything going on, I'm going to make more money because I'm running that extra call.
Sure. And are there benefits with that?
Yes, I have 401k that my company does match. I have life, death insurance, like life penalties. What is it called? Life insurance where you die on the job. So they offer us that too, which is pretty cool, especially like the parents that have kids. They offer insurance, so we get insurance benefits with that. And then I get to drive a truck home, which is awesome. So I get to like have a truck parked outside my house for my neighbors to see and be like, hey, you want to come do some plumbing work over here? So,
and you probably get a little bit of gas paid for, or you can at least write it off. If you're not, you should.
So that's where it gets a little sticky, and I don't know how much I can talk about how the company I work for right now, Parker and Sons, how we kind of take out certain things of our contractors. So I go into a job, I bid it, and then I have to take out certain things on Parker's side, and then I get paid my profit.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, well, we don't have to get into that, but a lot of jobs when you have, and when you're in a commission base, it's a little different, right? Because it's you get down to the nitty gritty of what the job actually costs, right, and what the profit was. And on more salary based jobs or jobs where you get a truck, oftentimes you get a gas credit card or a credit card for gas, or they have an account with a gas station or something, and there's a little fringe benefit there. We'll leave it at that. And everybody kind of knows it, but nobody, as long as nobody abuses it, nobody really talks about it. So, let's take a step back, because I just want to highlight what you just said, and I don't want it to be overlooked because it's a tremendous feat. College, you were in college, you dropped out, went down the wrong path, drugs, drug abuse, and sleeping from couch to couch for your early 20s, and then you had enough. And you decided to make a change, and you really had nothing going on, and you felt alone. You felt like you felt some despair, and through the opportunity by going to the Women's Resource Center and then getting hooked up at that trade school, look at you now, $130,000 a year, and you're just getting started. Like, what an incredible story. You should be very proud of yourself. I'm sure you are, and I'm sure your family is as well.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm definitely proud of myself. I never thought this is where I was going to be, but like faith-based, God works in crazy ways, and he kind of knew when I went to trade school. And so short story really quick, Plumbing Today and Parker and Sons are sister companies. So the wrench group owns 32 companies throughout the United States to give us the opportunity to transfer, keep our seniority, and keep our pay. Because if I just moved to Arizona and started at a new company, I would be doing on call. I'd be at bare minimum pay, and I would probably be treated as the person like, hey, let's call and get her in because she's the new person. So the benefit of what God was doing in my life was, okay, she went to trade school. The wrench group bought Parker's and Sons. The wrench group bought Plumbing Today. So 2016 was Parker and Sons. 2017 was Plumbing Today. Finished my trade school. 5 years later, decided to move back to Arizona, where I was born and raised. And my CEO of Plumbing Today, Jamie D. Domenico, was like, well, I know Paul Kelly at Parker's and Sons. Let's just transfer you, so it's all easy peasy. And it was probably like, honestly, like a blessing in disguise to know that like from 2016 all the way to just 2.5 years ago, everything was already planned out for me.
It's incredible. I have very similar things that have happened in my life where I had doors I felt like were slammed shut in my face, or I had to make tough decisions. A few years ago, I took a demotion. I took a 25% pay cut to move to Florida from Boston. And the beautiful thing is that I had the freedom to do it because of my skill set. You were able to do that, and you could move again if you wanted. And you could probably go to any state, anywhere with your resume now and say, yeah, I'm a plumber, hire me, and you'd be hired, on the spot, especially since plumbers are far and few between. But by doing those, because I was trying to serve a greater purpose, there was a greater force in there. And I need to do an episode about, a little more detail about my path. But what I'm doing today, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today, and I wouldn't have that experience had I not taken the demotion, gone to Florida, gone to California, gone to all these different markets. And just the way that things kind of came together, it was like such a windy road, and I turn around and it's as straight as an arrow. And it was like, it's hard to believe that it wasn't meant to be. Right. And moving forward, it's like anytime something doesn't go my way, like I got bad news the other day about just some goal that I had for 2024, and I didn't hit it, put it that way. Okay. Well, wasn't meant to be right now. I'm not in control. I'm going to pray like I am, but I'm going to act every day like I am. And my actions every day, because I'm serving something outside of myself, isn't going to change. So that's awesome for you. So was it Arizona? So it was an opportunity that was specifically in Arizona for you, and you decided to take it, or someone or something brought you out to Arizona?
So in Florida, things just kind of weren't working out there, relationship wise. So
Mm-hmm.
I decided to kind of just move back home and be where I was born to settle. So this Arizona is where I'm basically going to retire, die, and be buried. Just because this is where I was born, and Florida, is amazing and I love it. But family wise, there was no one there but other than my mom, because my grandma already went back. And
Sure.
so my brother's out here, his wife is out here, my nephews and nieces are out here. So it was kind of nice to be able to come back home and have some family here. And now my mom's back, grandma's out here. So
Beautiful. So, what would you say? I want to get into another major life change that you made, because I love it. But what would you say is next for you? Are you going to keep growing in your current role? Do you have some sort of management positions in mind? Dare I say, do you contemplate going on and doing your own thing? I know you may not want your boss to hear that, but what's next for Alayna?
yeah, no, absolutely. So, first thing is, no, I do not want to own a plumbing company. I just seen so much on the back end, even like personal experiences of, and it always, sorry to say, comes back down to customers lying, just to pinch a penny. And I think it's really unfair, because if you could sit there and spend $5,000 on NFL gear and a Super Bowl ticket, and then complain about spending $1,000 with a plumber, your mindset needs to change, because an NFL player isn't going to come snake your toilet for you. Okay. So that's just how I am. Nothing against NFL players. They do great charity work. They give back a lot. But when people's needs and wants with money, and then hating on the plumber because we're too expensive. Well, there's only 500,000 plumbers running in America. There's not many of us. And to go back on, I want to touch subject on that, the hourly thing. Like some companies, I want an hourly company. I don't want a commission-based company or upfront pricing. My thought process is, why would you want an apprentice that takes 4 hours to do a job I can do in 2 hours? So you're going to get charged more because you got a slower tech. Nothing wrong. He or she's learning the trade, but now that customer has to be charged more because they're a little slower. But then your neighbor got it done cheaper because that senior tech got it done quicker. So upfront pricing is nice because it doesn't matter how long I'm going to take. It's going to be the same price no matter what.
Yeah, and doing it a second time, or having damage due to somebody younger doing it wrong, is the most costly way to do it. So get it done right the first time. And I can't agree with you more on the NFL thing. Like, I'm a big Patriots. I used to be a big Patriots and Bruins and Celtics and Red Sox fan. And actually, one of the greatest experiences that I've ever had was when I watched the Patriots beat the Seahawks in Scottsdale. That was a great time for me. But I've just noticed over the last few years that, like, they don't care about me. Nobody's coming to fix my plumbing. Nobody's coming to serve me. The plumber is. And yeah, people are willing to shell out $200 to get an embroidered jersey with another man's name on their back. Like, what are you doing? Like, where's the priority here? Like, first of all, it's kind of weird when you say it like that. And second of all, like, shouldn't you want to have like good infrastructure and to have things work in your house and to maintain the only thing or the main thing that keeps you separated between the first world and the third world? Like, just a thought. You had that number of, there's only 500,000 plumbers out there. It's 480,000 licensed plumbers in America. And everyone goes nuts about that stat that, oh, we're heading for a 500,000, 500,000. We're going to be 500,000 plumbers short in 2027. And it's like, that only matters if you know how many we have to begin with. And we only have 480,000 to begin with. So you do the math on supply and demand. What do you think you're going to be paying in 4 years or 2 years? It's 2025 tomorrow. What do you, so in 2027, what do you think you're going to be paying?
And the pricing has just gone up, because when I started 8 years ago, a water heater was $1,000 to install. Now it's about $4,000, so the pricing is just going to keep going up because we don't have enough plumbers to do the job.
Right. So I would like to touch on, I didn't even realize this until I went back and I was looking through your content. you had a huge turnaround in your physical health. Can you talk about that? So let me tell you why, because I also do a lot of growth content and personal growth content, and particularly in construction, we don't do a good job of taking care of ourselves. A lot of Monster Energy drinks and a pack of cigarettes and Slim Jims and all all this crap that we have on the job site, and it's kind of the standard. And you had a talk about the transformation that you made and what brought you to that point where you wanted to make the change.
Well, thanks for acknowledging that. It's important, health is the longevity of life, right? So as long as we're taking care of our bodies, we get to live a very successful life of health, meaning no pain, no hospital visits, no medications. And that's where I'm at. No medications. I'm at full blown just food. And food cured my pre-diabetes. So I was at a 5.7 A1C 2.5 years ago at 214 pounds. And unfortunately, kind of touch back on my childhood, my dad passed away from a massive heart attack at 58 for diabetes. So he didn't take care of his health. And none of us knew he had diabetes because he didn't talk about it. So it kind of clicked in my head when my doctor's like, yeah, you're on the borderline of diabetes, 5.7, but you're okay. And I'm like, I'm okay. I'm not even in my 30s yet. What do you mean? So it clicked.
It's not okay. Why is that okay?
Like, yeah, I'm about to be freaking diabetic. What do you mean?
Yeah, again, talk about how doctors aren't saving as many lives as plumbers. Just saying.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. So yeah, I got on this plan called Ativia, and it's basically changing your mindset of how you eat, portion wise, food intake wise. And I did that for a good solid year. I was strict on it and stayed consistent, worked out, ate right, and drank a lot of water and no sugar. It was only healthy sugars in it. And I dropped all the way down to 132. And I kind of, I was happy there. I was at my goal weight according to the Ativia chart, but I felt too little. I felt too tiny. So I just started doing a big protein intake, the carnivore diet. And so I've been able to gain more muscle now. Yeah, take it to the gun show.
Alayna, you are my girl. First of all, let's do a quick math here. That was 82 pounds.
Yes.
That she lost. That is like a sixth grader. That's incredible. Good for you. All while working in the trades. And she looks great. And she obviously, sounds great and feels great. You can just hear it in her voice. And, it's not all about necessarily just being as skinny as you can possibly get. Right. And I think that what a lot of women, I've had a lot of friends, female friends, that when I asked them, what's the biggest thing? I had a friend that lost 50 pounds, and I said, what was the biggest thing? And she was like, honestly, eating meat and protein. Like, I wasn't as hungry. I had better energy, just, the way to go. And she wasn't really counting calories or anything like that. It was just more about what she was putting in. So, can you speak to that in the carnivore diet? And you said you put on muscle, but what's the energy battle like for you as somebody in the trades?
Yeah, so energy level is a lot better. And it's funny because sometimes I'll be digging a hole. And I remember Eric Dazowski, he's like, why don't you sweat? Like, I'm sweating? And I'm just like, because you have processed foods and contaminants in your body that are being pushed out, and I don't. So that's why I'm not sweating as much as you. I'm sweating, I'm just not as much as you because you have all the contaminants in your body being pushed out. But yeah, protein. It's really big. And fruit. I'm so big on fruit. At least 3 fruits a day, like pineapple, apple, bananas. It doesn't matter what type of fruit. Kiwi's really good. Just have 3 fruits a day. It's just so big. And then I was really big on not doing like the milk side, but I have found out that raw milk goes a long way. A long way. And it doesn't hurt my stomach like the pasteurized A milk that they take everything out of. And that's where it's like, am I lactose intolerant or not?
So my brother, I know 4 people that claim to be lactose intolerant that have tried raw milk, and they all say the same thing. They can have it. Not only can they have it, but they love it. Mm-hmm. And when you take carbs and sugars out and you're on meat and fruit, you do need fats. Fats have to replace that, basically, right? And the best way is to do it. Avocados, certain fruits have good fats, right? And milk raw milk is a great source of that. When I got down to under 5% body fat, I was actually having a tall glass of raw milk every day. And it's amazing because if you look back at the history of it, the reason that we had to pasteurize milk was because it was making people blind and killing people 100 years ago, which we have better infrastructure now, plumbers, HVAC guys, and girls, and electricians, right? So the ability to keep it refrigerated is much easier now. You don't need to pasteurize it. It basically kills it and makes it bad for you. That's what it does.
Yes.
So that's awesome. Is it legal in Arizona? Because it's not legal in Florida. They have to say for animal consumption only.
Yeah, so we have a butcher shop, and you can go buy it from him, but it's a special order, and you have to like say on the document of what it's for. So yeah, you can't say for human use; it's for my animals. But yes, it's kind of the same concept. But he sells like really good beef liver. He sells really good steaks. I mean, it's the only place I shop. It's a little bit more expensive, but at least I know it's local, and he's not fattening up his cows.
Right. So there was in 2020. Seed to Table is if you've ever heard of it in Southwest Florida, that's the grocery store that kind of went famous in Florida because he wouldn't allow people to wear masks in his store when the mask mandates were happening, and that's where I can get it. But his farm is quite literally like a 5-minute drive up the street. Like they're milking the cows, they're driving it physically to the grocery store like the same day, and you can't beat it. You can't beat it. It's great for you. There's all studies that show better brain function and all these things. I give it to my kids. It's the way to go. That and there is a notion out there. I'd like to hear your opinion on this, but what's your opinion on eggs?
I love eggs. I absolutely love them, and I will always eat them, but I know what you're talking about, and I love boiling them. Like, I could just eat them just boiled. I don't like cooking them in, like, a burrito or scrambling them. It's just boiled eggs. That's the only time I would really eat it, a chosen part of my day to eat an egg is if it's boiled.
So I have 7 eggs every morning. I give 2 to my son, 2 to 3 to my son, who's 2.5, and I have the rest. I hate eggs. I think it's like eating a fart, but they're really good for you. And the notion that they give you cholesterol and all those things is not true. And I've had doctors actually tell me that. My pediatricians actually told me that. So
they're trying to take egg, milk, and steak off the shelves. Like they're really trying to push those 3 main items off the shelf, and it's kind of scary.
It is. The protein content is great. The B12 in it is great. Good fats, and there's nothing better for brain function than good fats that you get in the yolk and in raw milk and all the things that you get in meat. So this is great. And I could talk about this all day, and I don't want to bore people with, that aren't into it, but I am super glad that I had Alayna on, because not only did I know that she had such an awesome story, I had a feeling, God was like talking to me, and he was like, hey, this is somebody you got to talk to. An amazing story, but somebody that also has made an incredible transformation in ways that I've also done. So, Alayna, we're coming up on time, and I do like to give everybody an opportunity to share any kind of advice, just in general. If there's something that you were hoping that you'd get a chance to say or to address on here, or just any kind of general advice that you'd have for somebody young coming in, or a young woman that may be going through something that you went through, the floor is yours.
Okay. Really quick, just want to just say this. So it doesn't matter your circumstances of growing up as a kid, don't blame your parents for what happens to you. I'm so thankful that my mom kicked me out. I'm thankful that my dad kicked me out. And I'm thankful that my brother took me in and showed me a foundation of, it's okay, you're a mess up, but we're going to help you through it. So don't judge your parents for not taking care of you. And that's one thing I've learned in my 30s. Just be thankful for the ones who reached out and helped you build a foundation of your own. Because if it wasn't for my brother and Aaron and adopting me and taking me in at 15, I probably would have never known what it was like to have a good head on my shoulders or knowing God. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But anybody going into the trades, I would say do it. The sky's the limit, and don't be afraid to ask questions, because it's the dumb questions that are stuck in your mind that aren't asked. You got to ask any questions, even if you got to ask it twice. it shows that you're wanting to learn and pick up knowledge, and the sky is the limit. So just take advantage of it. And the trades, like, it's not going to be replaced by AI. So
you hit the nail on the head. I say it all the time. Asking questions is two things. Number one, mistakes come from assumptions. That's just where typically they come from, right? And screwing things up and having to redo them and pay to redo them twice. And then a huge thing that people don't understand is that you want to create the perception that you're worth mentoring, that you're worth sinking time and resources into. And a great way to do that is to care. And a great way to care is to ask questions like you care. So that's a great way to do it. And, to your point about things from the way you grow up, I agree with you 100%. You are not in control of the circumstances that you were born in. What you are in control of are the actions that you take and the meaning that you give to those experiences. Unfortunately, I lost my mother last year. She battled addiction, and I wasn't thrilled in the home that I grew up in. I was very angry about it for a long time, especially when people would assume that I was privileged because I'm a 6'3" white guy. That's I make a lot of money, and that's always bothered me up until recently, because I've just learned how to kind of spin it and how to process it. And it's exactly that, right? Alayna wouldn't be who she is today without those experiences. And now she can serve other people in a different way that is needed. Right. So it's a privilege in a different kind of way. So, you're in control of the meanings that you give your experiences, and you're in control of the actions that you take.
Yeah, that's very true. Condolences to your loss.
I appreciate that. So, Alayna, I really appreciate you coming on. Again, I had a feeling, and it was so true. I'm so excited to cut up some clips from this and to share it. You're an absolute inspiration, and I know that this is going to find some people that need it. So, Alayna, thanks for coming on, and everybody that's still listening, we'll catch you next time.
Sounds good. Thank you again.